Welcome back to our podcast. This is a podcast about surviving lockdown. It's a discussion with myself, Paul Byron, Mark Harvey, and Liam Laws. So I hope you enjoy it. So this is another podcast, and we're basically going to talk about how we got through lockdown, how any of us actually survived lockdown. So we all had our turmoils. What did you do to survive lockdown?
Well, when it first started, I mean, we'll go back to February 2020. The first person to ring me was Liam on, I think it was a Tuesday. I'm just guessing here.
Yeah, I think it was.
It was a Tuesday. It was a Tuesday because I remember thinking, we've only got a few days till the end of the week, and Liam's ringing me going, I don't think I can cover the rent this week. And I'm like, really? I've never had anyone ringing me to tell me that. And I knew this was coming, like there was trouble, but I didn't expect it to hit us so quickly. And I was like, yeah, don't panic, Liam, we'll be all right. It's not anything to worry about. It's just a flu, you know.
Yeah. But when he said he couldn't cover the rent that week,
yeah,
what you meant just for that week, you wasn't earning enough money to cover the rent because you must have had
the work dropped off so dramatically over a couple of days. Like Paul said, can't exactly remember which day it was, but all of a sudden it was like, right, I'm going to struggle this week. Like what I'm going to earn maybe will just cover the rent, but no profit.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, you know, I could see that this weren't going to be a good situation. So that's why I rung Paul up just to sort of say, what do we do?
Yeah.
I think because I was the first driver that had rung Paul up. I don't know. I assume you hadn't been out working that day or something and hadn't really realised how bad it was.
Yeah, I was expecting everyone to start ringing me because I said, Liam, like, let's just wait and see what happens. And lo and behold, the next day it was an avalanche. Like everyone was ringing me one by one. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? And I didn't really know what to do because I'm fairly at that point. I was still fairly new to the business of a fleet owner, and I was sort of looking around, thinking, what am I going to do? Started talking to a few friends that are mushers who own their cabs. They were like, oh, you know, so-and-so's dropping his rent and so-and-so might be dropping his rent. And I'm thinking, yeah, I mean, we've got to do something, you know. But my first port of call was the next level up. You know, I had to start ringing the finance companies and saying, what are you going to do? You know, and they were like, well, we don't know. And then this word's banded around, isn't it? This word unprecedented. Everyone's talking about unprecedented. And I'm thinking, you know.
How quick did this happen though, Paul? This was 1 or 2 days of marginal decline, or literally fell off a cliff?
It just fell off a cliff. It was like, you know, all of a sudden there's all these, you know, viruses come in, well, virus warnings come in, and then the government are saying we might need to, it was a rumour, wasn't it? Lockdown's coming. All you could hear was lockdown's coming. My mate has told me this and my mate has told me that. And it's just a big worry. And then all of a sudden, it works. We're being told to stay indoors. And that means that there's no transport. That means that people ain't getting on the tube. If they ain't getting on the tube, they ain't going to get in cabs. And that's when it went boom. And we're thinking, we've got to do something. And I heard another fleet had dropped their rent. So I was looking at them because they're a big fleet, thinking I've got to do the same thing. You know, and I wanted to anyway because I was getting signs from the finance companies that they were going to do some kind of payment break because all our cabs were on finance, had no option. So that's when it all started.
Yeah, I think the week when it drops off was the week when Boris had, we weren't in lockdown, but Boris had said, don't go to pubs and theatres.
That's right.
He advised everyone not to go out in the restaurants, whatever. And so people listened to him and didn't. So we were still going out working because we weren't in lockdown, but people weren't coming out. And I think I think it was a Wednesday I rang because as I remember it was the Monday and Tuesday I'd done okay, like normal days, but other people were moaning about there being no work. And I just thought it was them really. I thought, what's going on? You know, I'm doing all right. And then on the Wednesday, it was a real
a strange time. I remember all the theatres gave away free theatre tickets.
Right.
The shows didn't actually take place. They knew there was nothing happening, and I got tickets for Wicked, Matilda, and one other. Was Grease on at that time? There were 3 shows we got free tickets for. Right. We didn't manage to get to see any of it except Matilda, and we was about the only people in the audience. People were already starting to not come.
But when you hear of another cab driver having a bad day, you always hear of another cab driver having a good day. So you don't really think. And then you'll see someone complain on social media like they're having a bad day, and then someone will go, "Well, I'm all right," and you think, "Oh, it's just the continuation of that. It's just that kind of thing happening.
But
And
it was
then
an
all of a
extremely
sudden-
bad day, Paul.
Yeah, I mean that was a really bad. That was the baddest day of Cabby's life, wasn't it? I mean, stay indoors, stay indoors.
Did you find it hard, Mark?
Yes and no. I did. I remember talking to Paul before it all kind of kicked off, and me and Paul were both saying, "I'll be all right. It's only a flu. It's only flu. It's this. It's that. Positive mindset. It'll be all right." And then, and then it's what Liam said when Boris said, "Don't come in." And then what instantly happened? I do days, and then what instantly happened was the night drivers who had no work because there was no theatre or pubs all came on days, so they saturated the market with cabs for no work. But I went out. So instead of staying in the centre, because you naturally get drawn into the centre, I went out to, Fulham, Chelsea, Notting Hill, just doing little £5 jobs.
Yeah.
But you do 10 of them.
I've got to admit, though, Fulham, Chelsea, Notting Hill doesn't sound out to me. I thought you were going to say
yeah.
Wimbledon.
Yeah. All right, out of the centre. And I did, not great, but I did okay. I remember going to the toilet. This was in lockdown. I remember stopping at Euston and going to the toilet about 8 o'clock in the morning, and there was a million cabs there. And I went for a wee into the station, and there was nobody, literally nobody in the station. And I come out and I thought, well, I ain't staying here. And I'm sure we'll get on it later. But the apps, if you went out to Notting Hill or Wimbledon, the apps tended to ping.
Yeah. Oh, okay. The further away from the centre you get, the apps
Because
became
the people
more
who were working
viable.
still were using cabs to come back in, and the companies, some of the big companies, were paying for their staff to use black cabs to keep them off the tube and encourage them to come to work. So you got a lot of work like that.
So the apps were helping?
Oh, without a doubt.
They paid people to keep working. Really, if it weren't for the apps, I will say that. And it
Which
might upset.
apps are we talking about? Free Now?
Well, yeah, Free Now, Get, Taxi app. They all gave work to cab drivers in lockdown. It's as simple as that. I mean, a lot of cab drivers don't like working the apps, and there's a million reasons why they do and they don't. But during that time, they fed people. Simple as that. And there was this thing where they were doing deals for NHS staff, and that was good for us.
But did you tap for that, or did that come about on its own?
What you mean the
NHS staff picking them up? Was that something that you put yourself forward to go and get, or it was something that came to you?
Oh, so no, the apps were doing special deals for NHS.
Oh, okay.
£10 anywhere in London.
That's
basically.
right. That was right. That was right. And when it first came out, drivers were happy to do it because at the start of all this COVID, everyone was terrified of what might happen, and the NHS were working very hard to help. Yeah. So we wanted to help them. I mean, I remember having a sign up in the back of my cab: if you're NHS, this job's for free. Do you know what I mean? Right at the start, I remember doing that, and it went down really well, and it was good PR for us.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons I got the NHS contract that we'll talk about, because Mark and Liam were the two guys that were at the forefront of that for us, which really helped us get through.
Yeah.
And it was crazy.
The app
crazy
thing, that got a bit abused in it by some NHS staff.
It did.
I remember I was talking to a driver. He picked, because it was £10 jobs wherever you went, and he picked this woman up in Tottenham somewhere, took her to Clapham. Basically, she was just I don't want to say just, but an office worker. She wasn't frontline NHS.
Yeah.
She worked in an office, going to visit her boyfriend during lockdown, getting a £10 journey across town.
And she wasn't supposed to be out.
I took a geezer from Shepherd's Bush to One Cabot Square on the NHS thing, and I said to him, "What's this then, mate? What hospital's this? Credit Suisse, isn't it?"
Yeah.
And he's suited and booted, and he went, I said, "I need to see your NHS." It was like 50, 60 quid on the meter, and he was getting it for a tenner, and he clearly wasn't an NHS worker.
Yeah.
So I asked him for his ID, and he couldn't show it, so I rung Get Up and got the full fare.
Yeah.
So how are they getting how do I pretend? I'm just going to say to
know.
Get that I'm an NHS worker,
Yeah.
or maybe I do have someone in my family who's an NHS worker,
That's what it
so
was.
you're going to sort of try and flannel it that way, aren't you?
That's what it was. And if you was going to the hospital, you didn't. I picked a girl up
Shameful,
who was she was a childminder for NHS nurses. So the nurses were working it was Westmoreland, a heart hospital, all the nurses that worked there with kids would put their kids in this nursery, and this lady would look after them. And she'd ordered ordered on the app, and I said, "You're doing this for £10?" She went, "No, I'm not really an NHS worker." I said, "Well, yeah, you are." And I just put it through for £10.
Yeah.
Just because
She
she
could
felt
benefit
guilty.
Yeah, it's obviously going to get abused, but at the start it was good for us and it was good for them, you know. But it ended up getting abused, and so it was taken away, and a lot of drivers ended up refusing to do it.
It got taken away because of abuse.
Well, I think so. A bit of that, and
wasn't it?
a bit of drivers just refusing it in the end because they'd heard these stories and stuff like that. But at the start, it was a nice thing for us to do. It helped with the PR for the cab trade. It helped people getting on the apps, to use the apps, to get it, like Mark said, get out from Wimbledon and places like that to get into work. And companies were using us for
Without that £10 though, Paul, what was you earning?
exactly.
So you were
It
doing
was £50 a day tops, you know.
right. So
Like the big banks, so your Goldmans, your Bloombergs, Barclays, and all that, they wanted their staff still to come in, so they were paying for black cabs for their staff. I mean, I picked a girl up in Bethnal Green. She's never been in a black cab before in her life. 24, and I was like, "What?" And she said, "No, I do this and I do that." And I got her there. It was like 6 o'clock in the morning. I got her there for about 20 quid. She goes, "That's cheap." I said, "Well, this is what it is." She's like, "Oh," and so that worked in our favour, and I think we're reaping the benefits now because people like her still use black cabs because it's not as expensive as they thought. You said last time about meter kind of being scared of what it could be, and it's not. And I'm not. In her head, it's an old guy, flat cap, 70 years old, moaning about everything, and I'm not really that kind of. Well, I ain't 70, that's for sure. And she quite liked it, electric cab, blah blah blah. So I wasn't what her perception of a cab driver was.
yeah.
And I think that helps.
I think there's a lot of things that have helped us. I think the apps have helped us greatly in the sense of comparability of prices. You can see a comparison of price instantly.
Yep.
And every time I've used it, it's been cheaper on the black cab. So they've got their, I don't know how they're pricing themselves. Their price goes up and down. Ours is what it is, and it's going to be that.
No, I had a woman who, like with Free Now, where they have all the different choices, don't they?
Yeah.
And I had a woman who said, "I've always used minicabs." And then I looked at you on here and realised there was a couple of £3 in it, and now all I ever do is black cabs.
If it is dearer, it's only a couple of quid. They're seeing it. So having that visual comparison is a massive
And
advantage.
when it first came out, I remember us talking about it. Everyone kind of got the hump with the fact that they've got both platforms on the same app, and everyone's going, But it has, someone's going to go, "Oh, minicab's cheaper, I'm going that way." But other people are going to go, "Oh, hang on, it's only a £5 or a £3. I'm going to have a black cab."
Or surges in, and then you're cheaper.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Sources for courses, isn't it, really?
Yeah, and there's a few of us that were discussing this. I remember when it first happened, and there was a lot of controversy with them being on the same platform. But some people were saying, like you said, the vision of having it in the same place is going to give us more work. And they were saying it as well. Free Now was saying, "You're going to get more work." And people were like, "No way, no way is that going to be like that." But I think it has resulted in us getting more
But Paul,
work.
the thing is, these companies
I'm
know about
shocked
their
to
marketing.
say it. I'm shocked to say it.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, and people watching this will go, "You saying that really?" But I am saying that really. It has given us more work.
Well,
Simple
I
as
don't
that.
see. I don't see what they could have done. I don't see the. I absolutely do not understand the fuss of moaning about them being on the same platform at all. If they're on two different platforms, it makes no difference. Being in the one place,
It's not a secret, is it?
I think the biggest argument is that it's minicabs work in the same way as a taxi.
Yes.
It's being immediately available for hire rather
by,
than being pre-booked.
by separating the way the app works doesn't stop the fact of what you just said. So working like a taxi, or the perception of working like a taxi, isn't going to change because they will be there working on apps exactly the same way as you're working on apps. So you haven't changed anything.
No.
You've just separated yourself from it. And
We're not saying we agree with the way they work. What we're saying is the way they currently work, and we haven't been able to stop it, even though we've been in court, is there. It's there. Whether you like it or not, it's not a secret. You can go on these different apps and do the same thing and order that product on an app. But the fact that they've got it on the same app is kind of helping us.
Yep.
because people can see that they can actually press the same button for a taxi.
Yes. But Mark just hit on something.
Yeah.
We are not the same product.
We're not.
When you are buying something that's a £5 extra and you think, oh, we'll pay the £5 extra, because that is not the same product.
Correct.
I'm going with a taxi driver, and it's
where we are. It's not where we want to be, but it's where we are. We don't want them to be taking we don't want them to be applying for hire on an app. We so don't want that, and we've tried so hard to take him to court, and we've done all the demos and the court cases, and I sincerely hope we do get somewhere with these things, but it's not happened yet.
Too high up, though, isn't it?
It's something not, I mean, exactly.
It is what it is.
It is what it is.
You've got two choices. You carry on campaigning, but at the same time, you've kind of got to embrace it at the same time, because if you the world's changed, isn't it? Like you show me a job now that's the same as it was 10 years ago. There ain't many.
No.
Right? For whatever, like I used to deliver to offices. The computers were bigger than this room.
Yes.
Now they're the size of your phone.
Correct.
And we used to deliver paper. Who has paper now?
Yeah.
So everything changes. And I said it last time. The problem is that the drivers that don't use the app don't realise how many people use the app.
Yeah.
And how people love it. You know, you go slightly out of centre, not in ill, and everyone wants an app.
I don't understand why you wouldn't be trying to catch as much of your market as you could possibly
spread
get.
the net,
Why are you not on an app? So any driver that's not on an app, for what is it? What is their determination to avoid being on the app?
A couple of guys I've spoken to, it's not many, is they are stealing our work and sending it back to us.
Well, that's the credit card argument, taking their percentage and another firm taking their percentage. But and the few times that I've took the cab out from yourself, and I was on the app as well using Free Now, I absolutely got more jobs in places I would not have got jobs. So there was no stealing. There was a job that I wouldn't have got. I would be up near Stoke Newington. Yeah. Driving back, I probably wouldn't pick up till I got to Liverpool Street again. And then all of a sudden, you've got someone in the gap. Yeah, you just had to dive.
Like I said a minute ago, I got a job from, I can't remember where it was, Hampstead up to Lordship Lane in Tottenham, dropped off. 30 seconds later, I got someone in the cab and going back to the Strand.
Yes, that would never happen.
That wouldn't happen.
No.
And you could think, right, so I don't know what it was, 30 quid. You could think, right, well, that's a 30 quid job and I'm only getting 26 of it. But that's 26 quid you wouldn't have had.
It's bringing more of the public into a black cab. I think what we've got to work out is how we do it and what apps we support and things like that. I mean, we have got a black cab app, haven't we? We've got Taxi app that's black cab only. So much controversy over that app, you know, and I hope that can be sorted out, because I picked up a taxi app job today, funnily enough, American Tourists, and they found it on Google, and they didn't want to be they didn't want to get their taxi off an app that's shared with private hire because they hated Uber. Americans that hated Uber, right? Because Uber isn't great where they come from, and they wanted to just get a traditional black cab. So there is that market as well, you know. And they were so happy with that. They were really happy that they'd found the cab on a black cab app, which they searched in Google, found, and was able to use, you know. Yeah. So I still feel we do need a dedicated black taxi app. I don't think that Free Now is the be all and end all of apps for us. I really don't.
I used to pick up the CEO of what was Halo.
Yeah.
And I remember him saying to me, the problem you've got with taxi app is you have to invest so much money in the technology side of it, because it changes like that, and you've got to be able to throw X amount of £1,000 at it straight away.
Yep. It needs investment, absolutely.
And Halo or Free Now could. I mean, getting back to lockdown, Get were naughty because they doubled their price straight away, didn't they? 10% or 15% of 20.
Yep.
And it's not gone back down.
No, and they wanted money off drivers to join.
£1,000, wasn't it?
It went to 2,000, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
During
lockdown, Get had obviously contract work. Corporate work?
Well, because they got a lot of the old radio taxi accounts, didn't they?
LUL, they had the LUL, didn't they? Yeah.
Still have.
Yeah.
And BBC and stuff like that, wasn't it?
Yeah, and so they were having drivers over, really.
And they wanted a £1,000 subscription up to
they
2,000.
wanted that up front from drivers, and then they put their prices up
New
to 20%.
drivers, if you wanted to join, because drivers knew that's where the work was, people wanted to join Get, so they wanted $2,000 off you.
I mean, would you get that back?
No.
You wouldn't have got it back.
No.
But isn't one of them got Didn't we pay a load of money and it's in like a pot, and if you leave, you get that pot back? I think that's Get.
That was Get originally. They took money out of your subs every week and built up a pot, and then, you know.
When you give up cab driving in 2060, you'll get 50p back.
That's it. But yeah, I mean, going back to the taxi app argument, what you were saying about investment, it was a cooperative, you know, and I feel that if we would have got enough drivers to come in on that, it would have been perfect.
Yeah,
but we didn't. We never were going to, unfortunately.
The problem with taxi app, in my experience, was you paid your money, you didn't get a job, so you pulled it because you weren't getting a job.
Yeah.
And so it was like a vicious circle.
It was a vicious circle, and it was a patience thing. Drivers weren't patient enough.
No.
Whereas with Halo, Free Now, Get, they invested so much money in, and they gave so many offers to customers to get them to use it. They were getting work straight away.
Mm-hmm. And they're going into the big hits. Yeah. They're going into Goldman's,
correct,
Bloomberg's, BBC,
correct,
London Underground, and they're hitting them. Whereas taxi app are going to the local bakers.
Basically, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So
you could say that.
It's an unfair market, isn't it?
It's an unfair market.
Massive
companies. And the thing is, you've got no patience from the drivers. They're not getting the work. They're saying they're not getting work off it, so why should they pay their subs? And it was going round and round and round and round and round. And that went on for 6 years.
Yeah.
And, it's heartbreaking that they couldn't carry it on, and they had to get investment, but at least someone come along and wanted to invest in it. And that's good.
That's what's happened now.
That's what's happening now. Someone's invested in it.
This is foreseeable, Paul.
It's foreseeable.
The foreseeable part for me was the fact that for what you was trying to create, that cooperative, there should have been no fees. I need you to take jobs. So you've got to build up that market share. And to do that, I don't need any money from you or anything. So someone is going to have to work for free. I think the fees is the downfall. And if it was free, all the cabbies might have signed on anyway. And then
how would it become free if it's a cooperative?
Yeah, no, it doesn't have to be free forever.
No.
You don't have to pay your fees at the moment. So let's say I take a 1% charge, a 2% charge, so that I get something that is running the running costs. And the money you need is the running costs alone. That's it.
Yeah.
I don't know what the running costs would have been, but I imagine in the early days it wasn't very much.
But how do they get started? They needed money to get started. No one was investing in it apart from the drivers.
It's the same as yourself. How did you get started in this? You didn't get given anything for free. No. You decided to invest your own time, money and energy on the gamble that the future will pay dividends.
Yeah, but Ride App is different. Ride App is huge expense. I mean, you can start a fleet with one cab. You can't start a Ride App with one driver.
You can't start with one driver, but you could. It's free. I haven't got one driver. The app is on the thing, and I'm telling all my cab drivers it's free.
Yeah, I think it's a case, the more drivers download the app, the more it costs you to run.
Correct. Something like that.
It's not.
How is that? I don't understand how it would work. It shouldn't make any difference technically for me.
To run an app, you need money. You need it's technology. Technology costs money. The bigger it gets, the more it costs to run. And you've got to get drivers. You've got to get work. You've got to pay them a percentage when they get the job. There's loads to go in for it, and it was working as a cooperative when it was small.
Yeah.
But you need to get more work to cover more drivers, because the bigger you get, more drivers want work, and if they're not getting the work, they're not going to keep paying their subs, and it's just like we're saying, it's just going round and round and round and round and round.
Because they would pinging for a cab, but because there's only 5 drivers in the area,
exactly,
they weren't getting a cab,
and it was going out to every driver on the app. The job, so you could be sitting on the Strand and you'd be in, I don't know, King's Cross, and it would send you that job, and you wouldn't want to run that far for it. I mean, people complain about running 5 minutes. 15 minutes. You're not going to run for a job 50. Oh, this app's rubbish. Turns it off. So that's why you've got to keep investing.
Game.
It's a really difficult game because you've got to keep investing. So to find an investor to come in with the drivers was their next option, and that's, I think, the way that they're going to keep going.
Yeah.
Or they're going to not be able to keep going. So I think it's a positive step.
Yeah. We have also gone off on a tangent from our lockdown.
Yes,
stories.
because...
Getting back to the app and lockdown, what I basically was doing, I think you was doing, I was plotting up somewhere. So, for example, Notting Hill.
Yes.
And I was just sitting there. Rather than drive around. I mean, I did circumnavigate the town, but I used to plot up in Notting Hill at 6:30 in the morning and just wait.
Specific street or just...
No. No. And it was like fishing.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? And then it would go off. But
you're plotted up waiting for the app.
Yeah,
Sorry,
just waiting
Yes,
for the app.
because there's no point driving round and round and round because there's no people.
No one out. So you go to where there's a bit of dough, Notting Hill, St John's Wood, etc. I just Primrose Hill. I just park there.
Mile End.
Yeah.
No.
Bang.
Mine was Hampstead cab
Because
rank.
you kept saying to me Hampstead cab rank.
Yeah,
I never.
Hampstead's always got people that want to go into town, so I was always.
And it was literally fishing, sitting there waiting for the app, and you probably had another 10 drivers round the corner,
Doing the same.
all doing the same. It was like fastest fingers.
Yeah,
first.
my mate lives in Notting Hill. What's the square off the top of Ladbroke Grove where the hospital is? St Charles Square.
Charles.
A friend of mine lives there, and he was just sitting at home waiting for a job.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Oh, he sat at home waiting for the job.
Yeah, because he lived there.
Jumped
St
out.
Charles Square, yeah, and he would just jump in his cab as soon as the job came.
Yeah.
And,
I'm the opposite. I'm not an app user. So I was plotting up outside supermarkets and hospitals, things like that. That's where I was getting my work from.
So you're still getting some, but why are you not an app user?
I was an app user a few years back, and I was just getting fed up. At the time, I was on, what was it at the time? Before Free Now. My Taxi.
My Taxi, yeah.
So, and they never used to tell you where the destination was. And the amount of times I'd run for a job, like I'd pull off ranks and run for a job, and it would be like a £4.80 job and stuff. And you think, oh, what a mistake that is. Plus, you're giving up your 15% or whatever. And I just got fed up with those sort of jobs. And so I thought, I'm going to stop using the app and see how I get on without using the app. And my earnings did not change whatsoever. The same amount of money in the same amount of time. So I thought, that's it, I'm not going to bother. And so I just never went back on the apps until we started coming out of lockdown in about the sort of September time when more drivers were coming back to work, and I found it harder to get work then. So then I went back onto Free Now, and I did start using it, but I'm off it again now. So I don't use apps anymore. But yeah, so I was supermarkets, driving around Harley Street, because
Harley Street, Wimpole Street.
Yeah, just going round in a circle. And because at the very beginning there was hardly any taxis out. You could be on Oxford Street, you'd be the only cab on Oxford Street. There's a couple of boots down Oxford Street, so there's people going picking up prescriptions and stuff, so you normally get a job. If you drove up and down Oxford Street, you get a job, or Tottenham Court Road. So that's what I was doing.
But that was every other cab driver was. I mean, the queues at Sainsbury's, the one on Kings Road, Marks is on Kings Road and Waitrose, there was 15, 20 cabs there causing chaos.
But those early days, the first couple of weeks, there was no, because everyone thought it was only the last 3 weeks. So I'd go to like John Lewis back door, and it'd be me and maybe one other cab there, because the Waitrose was still open.
How long did it go on for now? Because it just
those first, see, started to, no, because for those first few weeks, that's how it was, and then Paul got the NHS contract, so then I stopped working in town and started doing the NHS work, and that's what I started doing from then on. So I can't really,
without that.
And that really helped, because when I was working, I was, like Mark said before, it's like £50, and I think, right, yeah, that's me money. I'll go home now. And then obviously it's only because my wife's got a job that we could afford to pay the bills with.
It saved us all. It saved me.
It wasn't just but it weren't just the NHS. It was the fact that you dropped the rent. That saved us initially. Because that took the pressure off.
Yeah.
Dropped the rent completely, or dropped it to a lower?
For about a week, you dropped it. I had 2 weeks off.
It's for more than that. Yeah, it's for a little while. It was
I'll
free.
have you know, it was 4 weeks free rent.
Oh, I didn't get that. I went to work. But
You can't please them all.
I believe it.
no, but I think I was paying.
I'm going to have to go back and get the proof, and
No, I believe you, but I didn't have 4 weeks off.
No, it weren't 4 weeks off. I gave you the cabs for 4 weeks for free.
That might have been the 4 weeks I worked 24/7. But
no, it got to a point. It got to a point where, well, I wasn't getting the answers quick enough from the finance company, but I knew they were going to do something.
Yeah,
I knew they were going to give us a payment break. So it got so bad, and I got so many really worried cab drivers. I just said to myself, and I said to my wife, and I said to my business partner, I'm going to give them the cabs. And they were like, what? I said, I'm going to give them the cabs so they get what they can for their families.
Yeah.
It's simple as that. And I did it, and I'm glad I did it, because everyone was so relieved. And I was as relieved as they was, because the pressure just came off me like that, bang. You know, I just didn't want people to be under stress. You know, it felt like my whole family was stressed. You know what I mean? And when I say family, I mean drivers and my family.
but if they had gave you the cabs back, you couldn't have coped with all the cabs coming back.
So, Absolutely.
What would you have done with all the cabs coming back? I'm not going to work, so here's the cab.
Yeah.
Pass
And I
me.
had that as well.
Our rights to do, really,
Of course. And this is what I was saying to people, like, because some people were giving their cabs back and they were like, I'm really, really sorry. I was like, listen, it's why you rent a cab. You rent a cab because you don't want the stress of it when you don't need it.
Exactly.
So that's why you rent a cab. Don't worry about me. I'm in this business because I'm open to the risk of this business. Because even when you're working, I'm open to risk because you could total that cab and put my premium up, which happens. So risk is what I do.
Yeah.
So do not worry.
So your
give 'em back.
advantage is to let them have the cab anyway, and say because you just keep the cab there because there's nothing I can do with it.
Nothing I can do with it.
I think it bought loyalty from all your drivers.
Some.
I said this before.
Not all.
No,
Some.
but I think the majority of them, like I said to you before, if I'm renting a cab, I'm renting from Paul. If I go and buy a cab, then that's obviously different. But I'm not going to go primarily half because he's very good at what he does, but primarily because what he did in lockdown, it took a massive weight off our shoulders because all of a sudden you're going in instead of because one of the things with lockdown was at 9 o'clock on a Monday morning you was like minus £500 because you had your rent or your bill and you had your fuel, so you never realised that before because you went in, you did your 5 or 6 days and you got what you got, and it cut. If you did your hours, you got what you needed and a bit more. And then all of a sudden you're thinking, hang on a minute, am I going to get this? Yeah. He knocked it down to whatever, and little help from Boris, but basically you was going in for £30 a day, and my mindset was if I earn 35, I'm all right. You know, £5 a day profit. In isolation now, you think, what? But
you got you out of the house.
But it was the mindset because, and I used to say to everyone, well, I could be at home with 3 screaming kids in a 1-bedroom flat. I'm not. I'm driving around London. All right, I'm only earning a £5.
Yeah.
But that paid for my takeaway on a Saturday night, which that's all you could spend for anyway.
Yeah.
You live in a 1-bedroom flat with 3 kids?
Yeah, I do. That's why I keep getting out. But I just went in for that. And if I went home £5, honestly, if I went home £1 up, I was in profit and that was a success. If you went in for £200, you weren't getting it. And then if you went in for that and you didn't get it, you was then going home with the ump because you didn't get it. You was never going to get it.
Yeah.
No. Your expectations had to change.
Yeah.
And, you know, even when all the finance companies said you don't have to pay this month, we still had expenses. We still had to insure the cabs.
Yeah.
You know, so we do, you know, it was, and this is when the NHS contract came in, I was able to pay the other bills. So we sort of robbed Peter to pay Paul.
Yeah.
So, you know, it was a godsend really. And the drivers that did it were brilliant. And we actually helped COVID. We were delivering oxygen meters out to patients, which stopped them having to come into the hospital because they were checking their oxygen level. They were doing a video call.
The oxygen meter, not the little finger one.
Yeah, we were delivering them with a. Well, I was doing that part. You guys were doing something. These guys were
paramedics.
Yeah, they were sort of. They were chauffeuring the doctors around, the emergency COVID doctors. But I was doing the oxygen meters where you'd had to deliver it in a surgical glove, so you didn't touch it, which was a bit complicated. But we learnt as a system, and we devised a system which other NHS trusts copied. So there was a time when I turned up and I had to wait there until they called the ambulance because the guy had so much low oxygen, he had to go in by ambulance. And there was loads of issues like that. And
I remember you ringing me for the initial contract
it's mad.
And saying, and bearing in mind, everyone was absolutely sort of crapping themselves because it was all the unknown, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you saying, right, here's the deal.
Yeah.
You're going to be taking doctors around and they're going to be potentially going to and I remember Zoe going, oh my God, no, but you can't do that. You know, and we was all really worried about it.
Yeah.
And we had like the piping on the top, the little rag in your cash hole, masks. They got the PCP, and it was quite scary because no one really knew what was going on.
Did any of you get COVID?
I did, but a long time after.
So not from the risk that you took of going
No.
in.
I remember offering it to one other driver, and he was like, "You want me to risk my life so that I can pay your cab rent?" I was like, "Ooh, interesting." I didn't say anything. I was like, listen, if you don't want to work, that's fine. I said, but I'm giving you an opportunity to earn some money. I said, it's for the company, it's for you. I'm not asking you to risk your life, but I could see how he took it like that.
No, I can't. I mean, basically,
know.
I'm renting the cab, and if I think I'm in danger, here's your cab back.
Yeah, that's what I said to him.
And I stay at home.
But that's like looking at the apps and saying, right, I could have earned 10 quid, but I've only earned 8 quid.
But I can understand his way of thinking,
Yeah,
and I was trying to reason with him, and I was like, okay, I understand. You know,
I bit your hand off, I think.
Yeah, you did. You you did. Yeah. And Liam did as well. So I had no hands. You know,
No, we did. None of us knew the degree of risk we was taking. Once you saw that Chinese doctor who complained about there's something weird going on, and then it turns out he died. And then you start thinking, wow, he was a young, fit doctor.
Yeah.
What is this thing? So we're all scared. And I think we've all changed a little bit now. It's still a little bit of a lottery ticket, whether you die or not. But most of us are not in exactly the category of...
I think if you've got problems, you've got problems. If you've got health problems, then you could have problems. But in that April and May that we were doing it was all unknown.
Yeah.
And I think I said this before. I remember having a doctor in, and it was Harrow High Road or whatever, and he got out the cab fully PPE,
Hazmat.
and everyone ran across the road. It was funny. Everyone just hit himself and scattered, and he just walked up the road. But the doctors were so matter of fact.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, right, we had that yellow bag, and I had one doctor. We put it all in the yellow bag, tied it. Oh, you just threw it in the bin.
Yeah.
And it's like, hang on a minute, and you're supposed to sort of burn it, weren't they?
Yeah. There was loads of stuff like that.
And the hospital was empty, wasn't it? We'd go in and get a couple of coffee. There was nobody in the hospital.
But we'd be sitting in the taxi outside the hospital waiting to do a job, and a few of the doctors or nurses had come out, and they'd all be just stood in a circle chatting to each other without masks on, and that made you sort of think, you know, maybe. I mean, obviously it was dangerous, but I don't know. It made me relax about the whole thing a little bit when I saw their attitude to it.
I remember having a bit of a meltdown because I was going in and out of the hospital, washing my hands, and they showed me how to wash my hands properly, like up your arms, and I did all that. And I remember talking to one of the doctors when I see the daily figures for the deaths. I had a little bit. I was like, oh my God, have you seen this? It was over 1,000 that day. She was like, listen, don't worry about the death count. We don't know how many people are actually dying of COVID in hospitals. So that every death in the hospital is attributed to COVID. So please don't stress about it. You're on our front line. So you don't need to worry about it. And when she said that, I thought, that's weird. Like, why are they putting these death tolls out like this then? And I've noticed now they don't put this death count in anymore.
Okay.
You don't see it anywhere, do you?
No.
So
it's out there, but I don't.
It's out there somewhere.
It's not on the news.
But it's not out there. You don't. There used to be a Twitter part thing of where they done the death count, and it's just, you know, I just think, you know, when you look back, you think, you know, did they do all this stuff right?
But I mean, from a work point of view, for both of us, it was a godsend because it was guaranteed money. It weren't loads, but it was a lot more than we would have earned in town.
Yeah.
And a couple of times we did like a split shift, and you would relieve me about 2:00, and I might go into town, and there was nothing. I did it for about 3 times, and in the end, I just went home.
Yeah.
It was Edgware. I live in Harlow, so I just thought I'm going home, and you did the same, didn't you?
Yeah. I used to try and do a little bit in town first, but 9 out of 10 times it wasn't really worth it for what we was getting up at the hospital.
So when did this change and start to make a little bit of a rise?
In what sense?
In the sense that you could see the light at the end of the tunnel. You could see that this was now coming to an end.
I think when the shop started opening in the July, that was a big thing. A lot
It's
of
the
drivers
second year or the first year?
No, the first year. A lot of drivers started coming back then.
Yeah,
And
I mean, and it kind of worked. It corresponded because for sort of April, May, and probably June, it was just all NHS, and everything was shut.
Yeah.
So there was nothing else going on. And as they opened something up, the hours got a little bit less. You would say, right, instead of doing 10 hours, you're only doing 8 hours. That's combined. So then you had to go in and do a little bit more. And as the shop opened up, there was a bit more. And as the shops opened up, the offices opened up. I think
it worked really well, didn't it? Because it was kind of adjusting
it was
to
like seesaw,
how busy it was out there, and it was.
and it did get to a point actually towards the end where doing the NHS thing
cost us
you
money.
were sort of losing money
Oh,
going
right.
out there because you could have earned more in town. So
Yeah.
there was it did it all,
And it made you
sort of
lazy
happened.
as well, because you basically sat in a car park all day waiting for a doctor to come out. And
You're being paid while you're
we
sitting?
was being paid, right?
Yeah,
we
it was
on
an hourly.
we was on a retainer. So first week you was like looking for the doctor. And then after about 2 weeks, you had your feet up and you was watching a film. And if a doctor come out, he's like, "Oh, you're having a laugh," and you,
I'm going to cut that bit out.
but it was,
Mark the paramedic.
but you got lazy, and then when it started, when you had to start going back into town and grafting again, but it did, it all kind of correspond, it all worked, didn't it?
Yeah.
I would say it was weird as well when things did start getting busier in town. I started getting a little bit anxious. You know, I'd never felt that before, and then all of a sudden you're going in town. There's people, there's traffic, and it was weird how it affected you that way.
What, anxious because there was too many people, or anxious
Yeah.
because you was going to catch it?
No, too many people, just people and traffic. It was all like you can
Yeah.
understand when people from the
Getting
middle
around
of Wales,
London.
yeah, people from the middle of Wales come and visit London. They go, "Oh, I don't like it. Too many people." That's sort of how
Getting
I-
around London again, like, because
Oh,
there
the
was no.
the LTNs came in as well.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Or Regent Street, where they widened Regent Street.
They took so many liberties over COVID with the traffic, like with schemes that they had all of a sudden had money to burn and give to the councils to change traffic schemes. I mean, I could go on a long rant here, but the one that really upsets me is Bishopsgate.
Yeah, that's right.
That is the biggest liberty that I've ever seen undertaken with London, in my opinion. That's the one that really
Yeah, it's
hurts.
ridiculous, that one.
Well,
That's the one that really hurts.
so, and I've said, I say it in the cab. The city in general, I love the city because of what it is, right?
Yeah.
With the history and the, you know. But you pick a guy up who wants to go, say for example, Bishopsgate, and he's an American and he's got £50 million in his back pocket to invest, but you can't get him to where he wants to go, and you say, right, I can get you there, but we got to go 20 minutes out of our way, or I'll drop you here and you just do a left there and a right there. And then the next day he goes to Paris and they roll out the red carpet. Where's he going to put his money?
It makes sense what you're saying.
Do you know what I mean?
And look, when I'm doing the knowledge, I'm always thinking there's always going to be road closures.
Yeah.
There's always going to be one-way systems. There's always going to be traffic changes, etc., etc., etc. But to close off Bishopsgate, which is the main thoroughfare and gate
Up and
into,
down.
because they're called gates for a reason,
Yeah.
right? They're gates into the city of London. That's unacceptable. That's totally unacceptable.
It's the A10. It's an A road.
It's the
A
it's
major
an
road.
A road. Yeah, it's an A road that goes from London Bridge to King's Lynn,
And-
and they're closing it to taxis.
And
Right.
what it then does is clogs up the other arteries around it. Therefore, I would argue there's more pollution because the traffic's not moving.
Yeah, yeah.
But, I mean, I picked a guy up who rang TfL and said, I've got an American, basically what I said. Said he's staying at the Mayfair, his wife's going to go shopping, why he has a meeting, potential investor, and then he's going to go back to the Mayfair with his wife and go for dinner, all income for London. Yet he can't get to where we want him to go. And she said to him, has he thought about cycling? And he went, he's a 70-year-old American from Texas. No, he hasn't. And she was, you know, you laugh and we all thought, what? But she was serious. So that's what you're up against.
It is a strange thing. You need an infrastructure of transport. And bicycles, wonderful. Everybody could ride bicycles. We could all be like Holland. That would be great. But then the situation is, and they're heading that way, all private cars need to be removed from the particular areas and just completely removed. And all deliveries need to be done in the early hours.
Done out of hours, isn't they?
Yeah. Just need some more organisation. I'm always bemused still that you see a queue of people driving into the centre of town every morning in a car that must be going to work somewhere.
I know.
So they're either crossing town or they're working in town and are going to try to have some sort of parking scheme.
They've got a parking scheme in the City of London, the Barbican. My brother-in-law has an electric car, which his work has given him a special deal with, so that he drives to work because it's electric, and they've got cheaper charging and parking in the Barbican.
Yeah.
But they've it doesn't stack up, does it?
No, it doesn't
because
stack up.
of what you're saying.
Yeah.
Just doesn't work.
and that you're narrowing all the roads down to one lane.
Yeah.
Everything. There is a 2-lane road. Where are they now? I don't know.
Well, I would argue that anyone who works who drives in London has to, or the majority have to. You would not drive into London unless you had to, because it's hard work, isn't it?
I don't agree. I know what you're saying, but I don't think they have to. I think they just don't want to go on the train.
Maybe.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that really struggle with going on the underground.
Yeah.
Well,
Really just don't want to.
and especially
because of
now after the last couple of years.
And that's why they use what we call surface transport. There is a surface transport, and there's this argument that whether we're part of that system or not. You know, UTAG won that case originally on Bishopsgate, and the judge said that we are public transport and we are hailed like a bus.
Yeah.
And that was one of the reasons why they overturned the decision to give to make Bishopsgate a bus gate, right? And then it got overturned.
Yeah.
But how? I don't really understand. I don't, you know.
Well, we're public transport when they want us to be public.
Well, this is what I'm saying, you know.
So who denied us access? Who is gaining by
TfL.
not allowing us? So our own governing body is the one that's denying us our own
Correct.
access.
It's scandalous. It's scandalous, and I just don't. I don't see a way. So if we can't get that to be overturned, what chance have we got? Like, we just need to be better. We just need to just try and be better, move on, and I don't know. You know, it's
And I think we are being
shocking.
better, the electric cab and things like that. That's why more people are using us, definitely.
Well, I remember saying to a councillor who was running a scheme in Hackney that you know, everyone was against, and there was a protest, there was demos, etc. Why don't you allow electric vehicles into the LTNs? That would speed up adoption, and the whole point of this is clean air, right? So that your children are not breathing in clean air, diesel fumes. The answer was brakes. He was telling me about brake particles, and they're harmful to our children.
Off the
And
brake pads.
brake pads. Yeah, what chance have we got? You know, it's like you give them an option. All right, let electric taxis in. You know, at least you're servicing the elderly, you know, the disabled. What's what the purpose-built vehicle is for? Oh, well, no, because you've got a petrol generator in that vehicle. Well, yeah, but it's still
They'll always
it's
find a reason.
capable.
But
yeah.
the thing is, we're not banned from any of those roads. We just can't access those roads at
Through the
both
gates,
ends.
yeah.
If you want to get 50 yards up that road, you have to go around 3 or 4 other roads and come in from the other way. You can still drive down them.
You can't.
Not all of them.
You can't in Islington, and you can't in Hackney, I believe, because they've got cameras up. Whereas the LCN in Enfield, on the Lakes Estate, that one is okay. You can drive in and out of that one. You just can't go through and use it as a rat run. You can access it and drop people off. That's the way they should be. If they're going to have them, that's the way they should be, in my opinion.
Yeah, but even the ones in Islington, like the ones off Southgate Road, between Southgate Road and Essex Road, you can get to every
get
part
in-
of
you can
all
get
of
into it,
those.
yes.
You
You
just have to
take
go
a long
in.
route.
You either have to go in from Southgate Road and out,
Yep.
or in from Essex Road.
But what
and
about
out.
the one off Packington Street in Badgery? You can't get into
that's
that.
got a
can you?
camera. And on Elmore Street, that's got a camera.
Well, how do people
No, you're
drive to
talking
their
about camera
properties?
for
As in-
going through it. You can't go through it, but
We've had loads of PCNs from Hackney and Islington through
I don't
the
think you
through
can
the fleet.
actually go in.
So how do people get
Well,
Get home.
there's your
If you
argument.
live there, you get dispensation to obviously have your car there. You register with them and they allow you in. That's how I believe it. It's not you're right in what you're saying, because some of them you can drop off and get inside, but some of them you can't.
I think you're talking
and
about
you don't know
two different things. I'm a bit confused.
LTNs.
You know, I know the LTNs, but there are some that are plant pots blocked.
That's right.
Right.
They're
are you-
ones or them ones.
Them ones you go around.
You just have to go around
Yes,
or go
and
in.
I think that's what you was talking about, Liam.
Yeah.
The ones in South Carolina, you can get every part of it.
But there's some where
you
there's
just can't
cameras.
Get through that bit. The other ones with cameras won't have plant pots
No, that's
blocking
right.
it, but they'll have signs up saying "Don't drive through me."
And they're enforced with cameras and they're
Yeah.
catching people out.
Yeah,
right.
but
Money spinners, mostly Islington. It's mostly Islington.
if you can read the signs, you should be not going through
But
it.
this is all from COVID. They got this money. Every council got allocated some money to make them be able to have car-free zones.
Yeah, and now COVID is over. They've all turned them back to normal, haven't they?
No,
Exactly.
Exactly. It's like the pavements on Regent Street. They've widened them. They said that was for social distancing. Well, we don't need social distancing anymore.
Yeah.
So let's have the bus lanes back and free up all that traffic.
do you know what the worst thing for me was? Them blue, what they call bollard things
Yeah.
that were with walking lanes. So you've got walking lanes because, like you said, social distancing. So people they want, and there's some of them are still there. You still got that one on Borough High Street. I'm sure that's still there.
Oh, yeah.
And then the other
Warwick
one.
Way.
Oh, and also you've got the Euston underpass. They've just taken that out, so that's back to normal now. But the chaos, the chaos.
Well, in Kensington High Street as well, they put one in.
They put one in there. They took that back.
But that's
out.
a bike lane, not a walking lane.
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah. The walking lanes were
if
ridiculous.
There's got to be an argument. I don't know whether it would work. I don't know how it could. But people cycle to work and they cycle home from work. There's very few that cycle all day long, right?
Yeah.
So there's got to be an argument, or surely with the technology we got and the facilities we got, make the cycle lane like a bus lane.
Timed.
Yeah.
7 o'clock
Bollard,
it's a
up and
cycle
down.
lane. Yeah. Right, you
Up
go
and
to
down.
work, you cycle to work, you park your bike up, and then at 4 o'clock in the afternoon you cycle home. But between 10 o'clock and 4 o'clock, that is a traffic lane. Look at Park Lane. Like, I know it's an old, but there's never any bikes on it because they're all cycling in the park.
Yeah.
Right, but it causes gridlock, and it's got a knock-on effect all the way down to Hyde Park Corner now. Make that so that people can all cycle to work in the morning or down the embankment, and then open it up. Like you said, bollards. Or some old geezer, like a caretaker, opens up the barrier at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Yep. It would make sense, but obviously I think the people that are doing all these changes are cyclists.
Of course.
And their perspective is single-mindedly
Well,
upon...
I had this exact conversation with a guy who was a cyclist, and it was a good conversation. And he said, yeah, but sometimes I work late. And I said, well, how late? He said, well, sometimes I work till 10, 11 o'clock at night. I said, well, you can cycle on the road then because there's no cars. Yeah, but that might put me off. I said, but you're talking about you, one person, the whole thousands of cyclists and car users, and you and maybe 3 or 4 others.
Yes.
And he said, oh, but that would put me off. And he's like, oh, yeah, but it would put us off and it's this. And I was like, no, we're going to have to
It
disagree here.
Yeah, because enough people are still, not enough, but a few people still cycle along Euston Road. People that want to use it. Why they're not.
Well, you get the one who says, I don't have to use the cycle lane if I don't want to.
Oh, the amount that go down Park Lane.
Yeah.
Is that even allowed? I don't
Yeah,
want to
they-
use the
they can do
cycle lane
whatever
so
they
I
want.
can...
Oh, it's in the highway code, isn't it? They can go wherever they want.
They don't have to wear a crash helmet. They don't have to use the cycle lane. But it's there for their... I mean, I don't. I very rarely...
I like cyclists. I'm for them. I think
yeah.
more bicycles
Yeah, you
great.
can't-
It's-
yeah.
Same. I cycled in lockdown. You know,
Can't be against it, can you?
No.
you know, we pick up cyclists when they've got punctures and things like that. And a lot of I've never got many issues with cyclists. I've never had any real arguments with cyclists on the road. You know, but this lobbying and this lobbying and this constant road space war, it's got to stop. It's got to be some kind of
The problem is...
sensibility
there's your lunatic fringe cyclists, like there is your lunatic fringe cab drivers.
Yeah.
And they're the ones that get the most airtime.
Yes,
You know, your man in Regent's Park yesterday, what's his name?
Mickey.
Cycling
Cycle Mickey.
Did you see that?
Did I see it?
Jump.
Oh my
one
word!
that jumped on the
Because
pond.
they've
Jumps on the
got
bonnet.
because he goes round filming drivers on their phones and he grasses them up to the plod. Basically, that's what he does. That's his aim in life. It's on his bio on Twitter. I've caught 1,000 people, and Range Rover come round on the wrong side of the road, and he was in Regent's Park in a circle. Is it in a circle? Yeah,
Out circle.
Out circle. And he had his camera. He had his selfie stick, and he walked out in the road and jumped on his bonnet. And the car wouldn't move. It just took him along really slowly. It was like 1 mile an hour. And it went to court because he was trying to do him for
Running him over.
basically, running him over, which he didn't. He got off. But the guy that was driving was an agent. Was he a football agent or an actor agent?
Something like
Acting
that.
agent. And he had a barrister and he defended himself and he said Mickey jumped on his bonnet on purpose.
Yeah.
He walked in the road, started filming him and jumped on his
And
bonnet.
he was
even though
tapping his
he was-
windscreen with his selfie stick.
even
as
though
well.
he was illegally driving on the wrong side of the road, that was a different matter. And ironically, someone was filming Mickey jumping on his bonnet. So someone was filming Mickey, whereas Mickey always, or Mikey or whatever it is, always filming somebody else. So ironically, he got...
Caught by his own
The
technique.
guy was found not guilty, and the whole of the cabbie Twitter trade is now like, no. You know,
Well, yeah.
we got your back. Yeah, sort of thing.
Why was he? He was mainly catching. It wasn't a cab. This was a Range Rover. Or
It was a
Land
Range Rover, yeah. It was an agent, and I think he was an
You said
acting agent.
Driving on the wrong side of the road, I don't think is illegal.
He went up alongside of a bollard.
yeah,
So
big
if you come
bollard.
down the outer circle to the gates
Yep.
and and he wanted to go right onto
he went the other side of a
so he
keep
went
left.
the other side of the bollard.
Okay, that is
The
illegal.
traffic was backing
But
up.
he
Traffic
got-
was backed up and he was in a rush. He wanted to get to his physio.
Okay.
He wanted to get to his physio.
But he
appointment,
got
darling.
3 points, or he got a slap for
Yeah, he got a slap for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But he got let off for the.
He got found not
running
guilty
him
on the
over.
other thing because
But what
he
did
was
he get-
vigilante. He was trying to be vigilante.
What did Mickey get found guilty of? Because
Nothing. He
must be a public
No,
nuisance.
he
of
was
some sort.
prosecuting the guy. So the prosecuting didn't stand up. So whether he got done for
You
wasting,
probably have to pay costs then.
yeah. But
Yeah.
he's kind of shot his reputation a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah,
hasn't he?
yeah,
Well, he has a reputation.
He has
Oh,
a reputation.
yeah,
he's
yeah,
caught Lampard, Guy Ritchie,
yeah,
a
yeah,
couple of other people.
yeah. But a lot of cab drivers as well. He's got a lot of cab drivers on their phones, which actually, it reinforces the fact of how important your badge is. And if you see, you keep seeing him catching people, you think, I shouldn't be on my phone. Don't be
I
on your
think
phone.
if it's on a
Get
cradle, you're all right.
You're all right on a cradle.
You mustn't touch it.
No, you're all right to touch it in a cradle for certain reasons. You can still get done for dangerous driving.
Are you
if
sure?
You can,
I did watch a barrister on YouTube saying on the new law, in the cradle, you just cannot touch it. It must all be voice activated.
You can touch it, but you get the same punishment of dangerous. So if you get caught, you have an accident, a collision, they'll check your phone records, and if you were tapping your phone at the time, that's dangerous.
So basically, don't tap it when you're moving, tap it when you're stationary.
Yeah, but if you're going along, you use your cradle. Say if you're accepting a job on an app, you'll tap your phone. That's acceptable. That's completely acceptable.
It's no different to turning your heaters on, is it?
Exactly, because
it isn't no different, but my understanding was you're not allowed to touch it.
You're not. Yeah.
So
It's ambiguous.
When I edit the video, I'm going to put out there Dean was right.
It's ambiguous.
Paul was right.
It's very ambiguous. You
Right.
need to maybe watch some other stuff, not just that one thing.
I watched
barrister.
the barrister give the whole breakdown of that particular situation.
Yeah,
But the bottom line is, surely, if you, I saw a cabbie a while back on the phone.
Oh yeah, I've seen
And I'm
loads.
like, what are you doing?
There's no excuse.
You know what?
Is it 6 points, isn't it now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you can have a,
And you can
I
now
mean, a
lose your-
wire or
lose your
Bluetooth
driver's
or a
license.
speaker.
Yes.
Cab driver's license.
And if you're a new driver, the punishment was different, wasn't it?
Yeah, something like that.
So I think
Yes.
just put the law up for that.
Well, we were speaking about that with Steve on the other podcast
Yep.
when he was saying
That
you
was
can
it,
lose
yes.
your license for 7 years.
Yeah.
That still hasn't been sorted out, as far as I know. That's still there.
that,
That
the
threat's still.
6-point thing?
If you've already got 6 points and you get another 6 for something like phones, you can lose your bill for 7 years.
That's
You know what I mean? So that
does that apply to bus drivers and ambulance drivers as well?
I don't
Probably
know.
because the bus driver, the most serious would be ourselves because we're self-employed. The bus driver is just a job that they're doing, aren't they? And he can lose his job.
But
and
he's
go somewhere
also
else.
public transport, isn't he?
Yes.
So, it's got to be.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So the
So
punishment for him
if
driving
we're doing
should
that
be
and we
banned.
lose and we get 6 points and
Yeah.
then we lose our license, okay. But
Yeah.
it's the bus drivers were doing it. It's got to be across the board, isn't
It's,
it?
the,
Surely.
sa- it's the same regulator.
You'd like to think so, wouldn't you?
How difficult is it to drive now without getting a PCN?
It's
20-mile-an-hour speed limits everywhere.
Bus lanes that are not taxi. You have to always read to see if taxis are exempt
Yeah.
from the bus lane or
I
not.
think with that you kind of get used to. I mean, touch wood. I haven't had one for a while,
Me neither, touch wood.
but it is. You got a customer talking to you, and you're like, "Oh, sorry," or
Yeah.
you're looking. It can going down the street. You shouldn't is the one for me.
I think I got done going through Charterhouse Square because it's a timed school one.
Oh, well, that
and
little-
I
right.
didn't even realise. I didn't know it had been in place, and it's a road you've driven down a million times before, and I never even thought about it. Just went through.
Sorry, you cut through or you went into the square to drop someone off?
No, I cut through, come out of Carthusian Street onto.
And that has got a timed
Yeah,
school
for
zone?
an hour in the morning, an hour in the afternoon. You
I
drive
got
through
done
that.
doing
And
the
I've got-
little, the little slip off that takes you to the hotel, and it says, I was cheeky, and I got a letter. I didn't get a fine. They said this is your first offence for this. If you do it again, you get a fine.
Right, yeah. Well, I got the PCM for that, and there are signs there, massive signs. But I think where you're so used to driving down the same road, so now it is a case of I am so conscious of signs wherever I go now.
So when you get a photo off of him, and you think, oh, no,
yeah,
what
I
have
know when
done?
it comes through photo, and then when it's just something you think,
How
thank
much
God
does
for
that just cost me?
I would say as well, I got off that PCM because the form was filled in wrong, and then Heather at the LCDC fought it for me and got me off it. So I got off. But
That's great.
But
Well done,
I
Heather.
was lucky the form was filled out incorrectly.
Yeah, well done. Oh, that's
Yeah,
amazing.
it is hard. Or you creep into a box junction. Or, you see the gap and someone comes from the outside and cuts in and then you're in the box junction.
Oh,
Yeah, and you're trying to keep it moving a little bit. You do that.
Yeah.
So you're just trying to move an inch at a time.
I
And you can argue I never stopped.
yeah.
I would say
the law there is you're not meant to go across it unless the way's clear, innit? It's not
You're
about
not meant to
stopping.
enter it unless the...
But it does happen. The way's clear. As you move forward, the car in the other lane realises
Yeah.
his way's not, and he jumps in the gap, and then you're stuck.
I think you've got to look at it more as a business. Like for any guys that are doing the knowledge that are watching this, like part of doing this job is getting PCNs. You're going to get them, especially when you first get out. You've got to just write it off and just don't get stressed by it. The hard ones are when you get points on your license. That's when you think, oh wow, you've got to learn to abide by the speed limits. But the speed limits that are being set now, I can run faster than some of these speed limits. You know what I mean? It's just ridiculous. Like 20 mile an hour.
It is easy to creep
20
up.
mile an hour
But
on
on
Marylebone
our
Road.
cabs, we got the
And
bleeper.
then you, yeah, exactly. But then you go up Marylebone Road. Some of them are 20, some of them are 30. It changes. Then you get onto the Westway, and you've got 3 lanes, and you've got to do. I got caught on there.
I did.
I got caught on the Westway.
Doing
I think I was doing 38.
What way? Coming
In a-
in?
Westway
in a
in a
38.
30.
the
On
Westway.
average speed
The
cameras.
Westway is a 30
They-
mile
30
an hour
mile an
speed.
hour.
They reach-
Average speed cameras. You get that, you're done.
They reduced the speed limit on the Westway because the bridge was weak,
Yeah.
and then they strengthened the bridge last year, and they haven't put the speed limit back up. They've just kept it.
There's
at
a
30.
female, isn't there? What way was you going? Out or in?
Out. I was
Really?
going to- yeah. Yeah.
I got done coming in, and I still haven't seen the camera that done me.
No, because it's average speed cameras.
But I still ain't seen them.
Yeah, they're there.
Well, obviously.
Yeah.
What was your speed on that, Mark?
I don't know, but it was point. I got 3 points. That's the only points I've got.
Is anyone any of us sitting here that ain't on points? Obviously,
Oh,
yeah.
I haven't got any
You got
points.
0, yeah.
I've never had any. I've never got 3 points on my license in
But-
40 years of driving.
But I guarantee you, Dean, you go back out on the streets full time.
No, I know, yeah,
you
yeah, it's-
will get points, or you
It's
will
almost like
have
there's
to do
traps
a
to be
speed
set.
awareness course.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
done a few of them.
Anti-driving now. It's very anti-driving in London. And going back to it again, it's like it's ridiculous because you've got really old city, really old West End, and we have to share this road space with every form of transport, and the roads are not big enough. So this is why. It's
And
as
they're making
simple
it
as
smaller,
that.
like Liam said.
They're making
about,
it smaller.
Right. So, and that in itself creates a problem because if the road's smaller, the cyclist wants to come up your inside. You can't. I mean, first 7 o'clock in the morning, right? You have a cyclist on your left, so you move slightly over to, and then there's a cyclist on your right or a scooter on your right. And
Sometimes
then
that happens, yeah.
I had one a few months ago now. I kind of moved across, so this guy pulled my wing mirror out. So now I can't see down the inside. It was on Park Lane, and he bombed off, and I caught him up. And I said, what are you doing that for? I said, but now I can't see down the inside. So when your mate comes down the inside and I don't see him and knock him off, whose fault's that, mine or yours? I said, you're gone.
I think if they want to do this, they've got to just be more organised.
But
I
to
mean,
be fair to him, he said, yeah, you're right, and he reset it.
we just need to be more organised. Like, I don't know whether any of you have been to Amsterdam, but you know, it's a cycling.
Oh, I've driven it through
It's a
Amsterdam.
cycling
It's
mecca.
terrifying to drive through the middle of Amsterdam.
It's-
I was
it's
gonna say, there is still a
cycling
lot of
mecca.
cars going around there.
Yes.
And down all the little tiny back
Yes,
roads as
but
well.
you have
They're
to
all
really
electric
keep
now.
your
Along the-
wits about you.
Yeah.
I mean, you are trams. You've got the tram. You don't know if you're supposed to be in the tram line. You're stay in one line. The rule of thumb for me when I was driving through Amsterdam was just stick behind a car and stay behind that because he's local and he obviously knows what he's doing.
But every airport journey has to be an electric.
From
From Schiphol,
Schiphol.
it has to be electric. So every taxi you get from Schiphol is at Tesla.
right,
And if you're going back to the airport, you have to be electric. So that's how they've cleaned their air. They made it mandatory. Yeah. They're organised. So they've got bicycle areas. They've set it all out properly. It's an old city. Amsterdam's an old city. If that's what I just can't see London being that organised.
no,
It's
but
just
also
not-
it's not.
we're
It's
not
not Amsterdam.
organised.
Amsterdam's tiny. You can
Small.
walk across.
Exactly. You can walk across Amsterdam. We're not that organised. We're trying to be like them, but we're not organised enough to be like them. So we just need to be a little bit more accepted. We need to accept all our forms of transport. It's not happening.
But while
It's
you've
tough.
got social media and you've got people like Mickey. jumping on bonnets, it ain't going to happen.
No. It's
Because
just,
he basically he's in love with himself and his 15 minutes of fame.
yeah.
And all right, what he's doing, what the people he's nicking are in the wrong.
Yes.
But as long as you've got people like him, so then you've, like you said yesterday, the Twitter sphere yesterday with cab drivers piling in on him was unbelievable, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
And then you've got the cyclists protecting him, and then you've got a video from a cab driver showing like 57 cyclists jumping a red light, but then the cyclist is going, well, why are you filming?
Yeah.
You're never going to be in
Carnage.
harmony.
Yeah, no good's coming of it.
No.
But getting back to lockdown.
Yeah, yeah. We survived.
So what I would say is also I still was doing, I'm a tour guide, taxi tour guide, and I was still getting your tour here and there. And I think that comes from doing something else outside of just being a taxi driver. And I know you've done the podcast with Tom, didn't you, about doing other stuff.
Yeah.
And I would say that to any taxi driver, you know, try and do many different things as you can, and it helps.
I did Christmas tours as well.
Yeah, that was a massive thing. Who
I've
came
done
up with
some,
that idea?
Someone come up with it, and
Well, I think us tour guides, the ones that are qualified, we've always done the Christmas lights. tours. That's something we've offered.
Yeah.
I think
Someone must have said, let's
people,
do more.
Yes, I think some people must have, they're doing Christmas lights tours, but where we're charging a proper rate for them, all the other drivers, well, I'm not having to go to the other drivers for doing this, they were doing them for like 100 quid.
Yeah.
Because obviously they weren't earning any
It
other
has-
money.
it has to go hand in hand
You're doing
with-
one of them a day. Or
and
two
the irony
a day.
was you couldn't get round the West End for taxis doing lights tours.
Couldn't pull up
Yeah,
anyway.
right.
Yeah.
It was mental.
was
You
great.
mean to tell me people get in a taxi and go around Oxford Street and Regent Street to look at Christmas lights?
Yeah.
New Bond Street, really?
Yeah.
I was picking up from
It was epic.
because you
It was
could
unreal, Dean, honestly.
because you could do it because they was part of the bubble. So one of the rule was that you was allowed to stay as a bubble as a family. So you went to their house.
Was they allowed out of the cab?
Strictly speaking, no. But as
I don't know, they might have been at those times. The shops were open, weren't they?
There was
was-
ambiguity about this,
Yeah.
and there was a row about it. I remember there being a row about it, and I remember it all kicking off at one point because people were going, "Oh, they're going to grass us," and but it just carried on. We just did it. I mean, I did quite a few. You really went for it on the Christmas
I did
tours. You done really
loads.
well on them.
But I think
remember all the
I think
stories.
it came out. I think McNamara sort of said, "Look, as long as you sensible and you get out and have a photo with a Christmas tree, and then you get back in and go, then no one's going to kick off. If you start running up and down the street holding hands and that, they're different." Yeah, I did. Loads. I did 30.
You were the main man.
I did 30 odd in the first year, and I only did it. I did one for a girl I know as a favour, and it was my wife said, "Oh, go and do it." And I went, "I don't want to." And I did.
I remember getting you to do it as well. I remember pushing you about that.
And I did a little bit more. I did kind of what Liam does and went a little bit historical on that. Unqualified, obviously. And I got a good review on Facebook, and I ended up doing loads.
Now you've hit something else, because the Facebook seemed to have been a big benefit to a lot of cabbies.
Yeah, people
getting extra
advertise their
work.
services, didn't they? Running people into town and stuff.
And when I was getting a lot of drivers ringing me up week to week, like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I'm not getting enough, da-da-da. And I was saying to them, talk to your customers. If you get a customer in, find out if you can do that journey again. Find out if they're going to the same place regularly. Speak to your customers. Got cards? Yeah. Give cards out on every job, every single job. And it started, and people, and I know you did, you've still got a customer from the lockdown. Australian, what's his name?
I'm not saying.
It's fair enough. Yeah. But you told me some stories. I mean, it's fantastic. You know,
I
like
pick him up every day, and I have done for 2 years.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And that was from lockdown. And
And,
I know
and his family.
Yep.
so many
Good
other
touches.
many other drivers done the same thing. And I'm not saying I encouraged all of them, because a lot of them were doing it anyway, but a lot of them weren't. And guys were telling me, "Oh, I've got this regular job." So I was telling other guys, "Look, so and so did this. Try this, and it worked."
You had to think differently.
It really
So-
worked.
Whereas you and I did it. What day did I ring you? Wednesday. About that job up to the Bishop's Avenue.
Oh yeah.
So I think you thought differently in the sense that you take people to their destination, and whereas before you went, "See ya, bye," I would say to them,
Think about a return.
"How long are you going to be?" And I took a girl out to Ealing, and she was doing a dog training course. She said, "I'll be 45 minutes." I said, "All right, I'll be here when you come back." "Oh, I can't afford waiting time." "Don't worry about
that's
that.
it. Yeah.
I'll go and get a cup of coffee and I'll be here." "Oh, okay." And I still do it now.
Yes, it's a good
It's just good
idea now, yes.
Just whereas before, right, thanks, bye, bosh. I had a job in the week. I told Paul about it that worked well. But you just got to slightly move your.
You know,
Diversify.
you're telling everybody this little top tip, really, in a sense, because you take someone anywhere that's a government building or whatever, that's a little bit out further, you know that they're in there for a meeting or they're in there for in and out delivering documents, and they're going to come out and hope to flag down another taxi that's passing. Or get on an app and get one. Yeah, it's top tip.
I mean,
and especially now it's busy.
Yeah.
Now we've gone through all this, and now it's got really busy. People are worried about getting a cab now. It's gone from one extreme to the other. So if they can hold on to a cab, they will. Like, I've had it loads. Where, can I keep you? Yeah, of course, yeah. And they're happy to pay the waiting time. It's gone from one extreme to the other, which is fantastic for us. And a lot of it was born out of lockdown. Using our apps, realising that actually you can get an electric taxi on an app. Oh, right, and it's been. I think in the end, it's turned the corner for us.
Not to get onto the electric taxis too much, but what is the percentage that we're running at the moment for electric taxis on TXs?
On the fleet, on the wider fleet?
No, in terms of London now, you're seeing more and more electric taxis now. How many years do we have before there's no TX4s left?
Quite a while. But people are actually coming out of them earlier now, aren't they?
So there's 10 years left on some of these TX4s in terms of licensing.
Yeah, so at the moment, the 09s, the 58s and the 09s are coming off, and there's a lot of them going to come off this year and next year. Will they all get replaced? I do not know. But you've got just under 7,000 TXEs now, which has been sold from LEVC. They're not all in London, but most of them, I would say probably 95% of them are in London. And you've got about 9,000 combination of TX4 and Mercedes.
Okay.
So there's still the majority, but it's going like that.
And price-wise, what is 1 year's plate worth now on a cab?
I would say retail about 3,000.
3,000 a year.
Back to good levels now. And obviously that dropped dramatically in lockdown because people weren't buying and selling cabs. But that's gone back to great levels now.
So if there's a cab for sale at the moment with a year left on its plate, it should be about $3,000.
I'd say.
Yeah.
Between
2 years, $6,000. And so on.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we've done an hour and 13 minutes.
Brilliant.
It was.
It went quick.
Yeah, lovely. I don't know what we'll. I'm going to cut most of it out, and it'll just be me in the final edit.
Better than the last one we got.